All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Minnesota Zoo and our current Hangout on air. And this week we're going to be talking about big bugs. And as you can see, I'm back in my office. My name's Josh. I'm the social media coordinator here at the Minnesota Zoo. And we're going to be joined by some really cool folks on a different part of the area of the zoo. And they are at our Big Bugs exhibit, which is open all summer and it's free to the public. And we're really thankful for our sponsors, Think Mutual Bank and the Legacy Amendment. But joining us today, we have Leah and Kristina, and they are our resident bug experts here at the Minnesota Zoo. So welcome, you guys. We're really excited to have you hanging out with us today.
Thank you.
And why don't we go ahead and just get right into it. You guys are the bug experts, so here at the Minnesota Zoo, we obviously have our Big Bugs exhibit, but how many big bugs do we have?
So for the big bugs, we have 13 that are giant animatronic, very large, larger than life. And then we have a few extra statues around, including this lovely monarch caterpillar that you see here.
Awesome. And what's really cool about our Big Bugs exhibit is we don't only have just these giant animatronic bugs, but we actually have all sorts of live bugs, too, that you guys take care of. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So on exhibit, we have 18 different windows that you can walk by and see lots of different species, 18 species to be exact. And then we also have a live colony of honeybees right beside as well. So those are kind of the main ones that you can see every time you come. Although granted, they are very well camouflaged, so you'll have to use your eyes and look for them for sure. Yep. Then we also have some in the background. We actually right now have about 35 species total. And then in the back of the building, we'll take some of those out occasionally for demos. So you'll be able to not only see the ones that are back behind the windows, but you'll be able to see some that we bring out in small containers that you can look nice and close up to. And some of them we hold in our hands as well, so you can get a really close-up view of some of the insects and other arthropods that we have.
That is so cool. And what I really love is you can actually hear some of the sounds that's going on in the background. So when you're walking through the exhibit, you really feel like you're, the size of a little bug, and all these bugs are larger than you. So I think that's super cool. And like you said, I love that it's really interactive, even with the live bugs, and people will actually get up close views of these really cool bugs from all over the world. So why don't we go ahead? I have a really quick question for you guys. And I know that people are always thinking, oh, bugs are kind of gross, and bugs are kind of, creepy and all sorts of stuff. But bugs are actually really important. And one of the things why they're important is the food that they eat and what they do with that. So can you guys explain a little bit about what bugs eat and all that sort of stuff?
Sure. Well, bugs, they eat a variety of different things out in the wilds, from pollen on flowers to any decaying plant matter on the ground, and even other bugs hunt bugs that run past their hiding locations, such as crickets here at the zoo. So animals like praying mantids, scorpions, and spiders, they all eat other bugs that they either have to catch themselves by actively hunting for them, or they're sit-and-wait predators that hide in a specific location waiting for those bugs to run by their post. And spiders, some of them use their intricate sticky webs to catch their food, and others just use a carpet webbing on the ground to feel for those vibrations waiting for their food items to run by. Then there's other bugs like praying mantids that will catch moths and butterflies out of the air for a tasty treat. And then bugs such that we have here at the zoo as our beetles that we'll be showing you later on. They're more of a fruit eater, or they eat the sap from trees too, so they like more of a sugary treat. And then beetle grubs, so the larval form of beetles, and millipedes, they are all decomposers of decaying plant matter. So they eat the leaves that fall from our trees in the fall, and even the rotten logs that are on the ground. We also have domestic beetles here at the zoo, and they eat all the rotting flesh from carcasses that pass away in the wild. So here at the zoo we have some skulls they've been cleaning off for us so that we can use in the education department. Do you have anything to add to what bugs eat? So it's a really wide variety of a diet that we feed here, both at the zoo and in the wilds for the bugs out there.
And in general, what determines what they eat is basically what adaptations they have. So as Kristina said, if they have something to actually catch insects or other arthropods, then that's what they'll use to eat. It's also their size. We've had things that come in really, really small, like our orchid mantids came in about that big, And so we had to feed them very tiny 2-week-old or even pinhead crickets, were the size of literally a pinhead. And then as they get older, then we get to feed them bigger things too. So basically, insects and other arthropods are usually either chewers or suckers. Basically what you could say, and that's their mouth parts and how that dictates what they're going to be eating. So.
Yeah, and even with our honeybees we have here on exhibit, you see them working actively every day to fly around the zoo collecting the pollen from the flowers. But the honeybees, they also collect the nectar from those flowers, and that nectar is what they make the honey out of to feed their hive.
That's so cool, and I am a personal fan of honey, so I'm very thankful that they're using the pollen and all that digestive stuff is going on to create honey, so I think that's really cool. And I personally also really like the fact that I know you can totally learn here at the Minnesota Zoo at our Big Bugs exhibit is that dragonflies, they actually eat a type of bug that I don't like, which are mosquitoes. And how many mosquitoes can a dragonfly eat in a day?
You know, that one
I'm not sure, but it's like around 1,000 or more a day per dragonfly.
That's awesome. So we can have dragonflies everywhere. I'm all about the dragonfly.
We have a couple on exhibit, especially our giant water bug also is a great mosquito eater, but they eat the mosquitoes that are in their larvae form in the water. So we have lots of things that will help keep the insect population down, especially the mosquito population.
Perfect. Perfect. And so other than obviously helping to keep, other bug populations down, why are bugs so important to everything that goes on here in our planet?
Can I answer that one? All right, sure. All right, so bugs are pretty important for a variety of reasons too. They help keep some of those pest bug populations down like the mosquitoes, but there's also a form of biocontrol as well. So some bugs get introduced into our environment to control the pesky bugs that are on the crops that we grow. So instead of spraying pesticides, you can bring in other bugs to eat or consume and decrease the populations of those pesky ones. And then there are
the decomposers.
Decomposers. Yep, sorry, I forgot the question for a second. There's decomposers such as the millipedes and the dermestid beetles. Those animals consume all that material that kind of dies on the ground and is waiting to be cycled back into the environment. So those decomposers, they will consume that material such as the dead leaves, and as it gets digested in their bodies, it comes back out as fresh nutrient soil that our plants really need to grow. So it helps put that nitrogen back into the ground so that we can still have plants and people can still garden with that fresh soil.
Plus then we don't have a bunch of dead stuff laying around
piling up. Otherwise we wouldn't have anywhere to walk. We'd be walking under really big piles of leaves.
Dead dinosaurs even.
Yep. And then there's also bugs that are really important pollinators for us, such as the honeybees we have on exhibit, but there are also flies and beetles and some other bugs that help pollinate those flowers for us when they feed on that nectar. They pick up the pollen on their hairy bodies, and as they visit individual flowers, they help spread that pollen around and help pollinate those flowers. And so when those flowers are pollinated, it helps produce fruit for us. It also produces plants that we use to make different textiles out of for clothing and all that fun stuff. So pollination is a really important one, and right now that's a big topic in the science world here.
An important food source, of course, for many, many things, including us. There's some that are very delicious if you cook them properly.
Yep.
Well, I personally haven't had any bugs. I haven't tried any bugs, but I'm going to take your word for it.
Yep, we'll give you some mealworm cookies or worm cookies.
I don't know. I might just have to take your word for it, but we'll try. We'll see. But I did hear Kristina mention that you guys have some extra special guests that you want to show with us today, some different beetles. So I can't wait to meet them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you want to go first?
Sure. All right, so I have our longest animal at the Big Bugs exhibit. I should say longest living animal, because we do have some pretty large ones for the animatronics. But I have one right here that actually used to be considered the longest animal on the planet until its cousin was recently discovered. And if you can see kind of what it looks like, it looks an awful lot like a stick, and there's a good reason for that. It's because it's a stick insect. This one is called a giant wingless stick insect because normally in most of their life stages they do have no wings except the males. And actually this one we thought was a female for quite a while until he molted his exoskeleton and then he grew wings. He also has some pretty bright blue and black stripes on his side, so that helps us know that he is a male. This is a type, I said, it's called a giant wingless stick insect, and they're native and actually endemic to Southeast Asia, Malaysia area. And so these are something, oh, and he's demonstrating his really great camouflage right now. These, we do have native stick insects in Minnesota. We've even found some here right at the zoo. We have at least 3 different species, although granted, they only get to be about 4 inches long, as big as they can. This one we thought would be kind of fun. We haven't measured him for a while, and so I do have a ruler here, and maybe with Christina's help we can figure out how long is our stick insect.
Yep, so we have a 12-inch ruler here as well.
And you can measure, they're measured both by just body length, so I would say he is about, he is almost 7 inches long body length, and he does love to use that ruler as something to grab onto. And with arms, as he's demonstrating now, he is over a foot long with just including his front arms. If his back legs were also outstretched, then it would be a little bit longer too. So as I was saying, they do have great camouflage, and part of that is, of course, to look like a stick. That's going to be a great way to hide, but it's also to move like a stick. So they normally only come out at night, and then when they are active, they usually move very slowly, kind of like a stick that's moving in the breeze.
Very cool. Very cool. Would you actually mind bringing it just a little bit closer to the camera? It's doing such a great job at camouflaging. It's hard to see it. That is so cool. And you said that it's just over 7 inches long right now.
So it's his body is just over 7 inches long, yeah. And with all the legs, he's over 12 inches. These guys can get to be regularly about 12 inches long, especially the males. The females are even bigger, and the biggest one that was found was over 21 inches long. The biggest stick insect, or in general, I should say, the longest, was over 22 inches long.
Wow. Wow. And once again, where are these guys typically located in the world?
Southeast Asia.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
We have another one for you, too.
Right. Bring out our other friend. Alright, so this guy that I have here, he is called an Atlas beetle, or is also known as a 3-horned rhino beetle. He has the 3 protrusions on his head to give him the look of rhino horns there. And he is also from Southeast Asia. Many of the bugs we have here at the Big Bugs exhibit are from those warm tropical environments. And since it's warm year-round in Southeast Asia, the bugs are able to get to these really great sizes. This Atlas beetle that I have here with me today, he is a male. Males have horns, and they use those horns to help them fight against other males, to win territory, to win food sources, and even to win the girls. So they use those horns to flip over other males, and his mouth is actually the small fuzzy part underneath there, and then he has 2 antennae on the side of his head, just like the stick bug that we have, but his antennae are much shorter, and they use those antennae to help them smell in their environment, picking up chemical senses as well. And all beetles, they're characterized by these hard outer wings that cover their back there, and those are called elytra. So they're actually not the wings they use to fly, at least not in this particular beetle. They have softer, clear wings underneath that allow them to fly. Now these Atlas beetles, they're pretty strong for their size. Our Atlas beetle here, he can lift up to 100 times his weight. And so that allows them to lift up those other male beetles when they're fighting. And the females, they don't have these impressive horns on their heads there. And this Atlas beetle, he's not like the stick insect that eats the leaves. He actually prefers that mushy, rotten fruit. So at the zoo here, his favorite is brown, mushy bananas. So he'll kind of sit on top of that banana all day long, and he'll consume a pretty good-sized chunk just for himself. But in the wild, they also like to tap into tree roots or any tree branches they can get a hold of to drink that sugary sap from the trees. That is our Atlas beetle.
Very cool. Very cool. And so those things, you said the outer shells don't, or the outer wings aren't for flying, but they do have wings that they can fly with.
Yep, beetles have two pairs of wings. They have this hard outer wing that acts as protection for them, and then they have a set of clear wings underneath that are used for flying. We do have fruit beetles here at the zoo where their outer shell wings are a little bit more flexible and are angled differently, and they can use in the flying process as well. But normally when you see beetles fly around here, even here in Minnesota, you'll see these outer wings kind of out to the side, allowing those soft clear wings to lift up the animal's body and fly away.
Very cool. Very cool. Speaking of things that you can see here in Minnesota, you guys have shown us some really cool bugs, and the 2 live ones that you had with us were from Southeast Asia. What are some cool bugs that people can see in their own backyards here in Minnesota?
All types, especially, it depends on what kind of habitat you're providing for the insects as well. But arthropods, which includes insects and arachnids and myriapods like millipedes and things like that, you can definitely find them even within your house, whether that's a good thing for you or not. We do have millipedes, centipedes, sow bugs. Those are kind of isopods. They have 7 sets of legs, usually very small. Some people have some called roly-polies too. Then out in your backyard, you can find things like beetles, for example.
Yep.
Like some that a lot of people don't realize are beetles are like June bugs are actually a type of beetle.
And fireflies. I just learned that today.
Fireflies are a type of beetle as well, yes. We also have things like dragonflies and damselflies that'll come to your backyard potentially to help dry off their wings before they go lay eggs in water. I even found a stag beetle in my backyard for the first time this summer. Happened to be during the bugs exhibit, which is really cool. They can even be about this big here, right here in Minnesota.
Wow.
But yeah, you can find lots of different things, and actually a lot of them accidentally come into our containment building from all of the leaves that we bring in for the other animals. So we found true bugs with the sucking mouth parts and the crossed wings, like box elder bugs are a type of true bug. And of course, that's just the stuff you find on land. If you happen to have a pond in your backyard or near your house, if you take a fish net and you start scooping for things and put it in a small container of water, you'll start seeing things that are usually the larva form of a lot of the flying insects we have, like dragonflies, damselflies, mosquitoes as well. But you'll see lots of different things both on land and in the water all around you.
That's so cool. That is very cool. And I do know that there's, is there anything that you can do to attract different sorts of bugs to your property? If you're a person who likes bugs, then bugs are very important, so we definitely want to keep them around.
Absolutely. It definitely has to do with that habitat. So the more diverse habitat you have, the better. Especially for our pollinators, lots of different flowers that are in bloom all year round. So plant some that are in bloom both in early summer to midsummer to late summer to fall, and that'll help give them food all year round. That's for our honeybees and our solitary bees that are native to Minnesota, and all sorts of other things that help pollinate. You can also leave your dead trees in your yard if it's safe, of course. But lots of things will make use of those trees, and lots of other bigger animals will come and potentially eat the insects that are in the trees too.
So you're providing a food source for all that other wildlife, such as small mammals, and even if you're into songbirds, they love visiting those dead, decaying logs that we leave out there for beetles and grubs and mites to live in. But even just if you have leaves that fall from your trees in the fall, just kind of make a small pile off to the side and even start your own compost pile. That will encourage everything from beetles to millipedes to come and visit that area, and you can search for those. And even if you plant a garden in pots too, you'll have animals that come and visit those green leaves on the plants as well, because all animals need places to sit and rest on, and even shady locations.
And of course, pesticide use, use sparingly if you have to. There's also some more natural methods that don't necessarily kill everything that happens to land or eat on them. So definitely look into that. We've even considered, at least at my house, I've considered buying some praying mantids. You can buy an egg case and have them hatch out, which is a really cool thing to watch in general. And then they'll come and they'll eat all the aphids and other insects and things that are actually eating all your leaves that you want to eat. So you can also control by using insects yourself.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we are running a little bit out of time, but there is one question I know that we had a guest ask, and I think it's a really cool question, and I know you guys can answer this. So what is the biggest bug in the world?
All right.
So it depends on if you're talking length or weight or size in general. You want to talk about beetle?
Sure.
Okay.
All right. As far as in the beetle world, the largest beetle is actually the Hercules beetle. And then the heaviest beetle is the Goliath beetle. And they're all relatives to this Atlas beetle that I'm holding here.
And we did show you the relative, what used to be for 100 years, used to be thought as the longest insect in the world. And now they realize that they found a bigger one, like we talked about. It's called the Chan's megastick. Is the longest insect in the world. There's also some of the heaviest things that we have. Like, for example, we have a very heavy stick insect that's about 65 grams, which sounds like a lot, and it is for an insect. We have that right here at the zoo. There's also basically a cricket relative, an orthopteran, that's called a weta. And that one is arguably one of the heaviest insects as well, and I think that's over 80 grams. So
Wow.
Lots of answers to your one question.
Well, that's good. We like variety. We like variety. And so do you guys have, working with all these different bugs this summer, do you guys have a favorite? Do you guys have a favorite bug or insect to work with?
It changes.
It changes a lot as our collection grows, and even as our animals are growing from that nymph size and becoming adults. For sure, this Atlas beetle that I'm holding is definitely one of my favorites, but we also have some pretty cool moving leaves on exhibit. That one just molted this morning into an adult form and is growing wings. So you just get to know these animals a little more personally when you're working with them, and so it's really hard to choose a favorite.
We have some mantids that are also very interesting. It's almost like they have a personality. So, I really like our violin mantids. We're able to hold those on our hand, and you can see them moving around like a robot. It's kind of fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you guys have tons to do. So thank you for hanging out with us today on Google+. And thank you to everyone who's been tuning in and listening to us talk about bugs and how they're so cool and why they're so important. You can definitely come, if you're around the area, to the Minnesota Zoo and check out our Big Bugs exhibit, sponsored by Think Mutual Bank and the Legacy Amendment. Otherwise, definitely check out our website at mnzoo.org, and we have tons of facts and pictures and all sorts of stuff about bugs and all the animals we have at the zoo. And if you enjoyed hanging out with us today on Google+, definitely also visit mnzoo.org, and you can check out some of our other educational opportunities like interactive video conferencing and other cool distance learning stuff. So thank you again for hanging out with us. Thanks again to Leah and Kristina. So we will see you guys later, and we'll hang out soon. All right, bye guys.
Bye.